Man, the police force, though, and we have mad respect for every single police force, but how did this start? You know, they discover the body on December 26, 1996, and John finds the body, right? The police were in the house, searching the house, except for the basement where she was actually, you know, that's where she was. So do you think it started, ground zero was the search? They don't find her. They trample DNA. You know, it's a casual crime scene, really. And then they're backpedaling. They're covering their tracks. They're saving their ass. And they just had to do whatever they had to do to maybe just keep perpetuating this idea that the parents did it.
I don't want to single out the Boulder Police and say they're the worst police ever or whatever. And I'm not anti-police. Look, the police have a hard job. I wouldn't want to be a police officer. It's a thankless job. But what you find in a lot of wrongful conviction cases, and I consider this a wrongful conviction case, even though it was, you know, the court of public opinion and not a literal wrongful conviction, you know, you find a crime where the police are just inexperienced for that type of crime. This poor little girl was tortured to death in the most vicious of ways. And it was the first murder in Boulder, and it was already December 26th because there aren't a lot of murders in Boulder. And like other cases I have covered, you have a small town police force that's overwhelmed by a crime that they're not experienced with. You know, Steve Thomas, the lead detective, I believe, came from narcotics and handled this investigation. They refused outside help inexplicably, and they just key into the wrong idea early on, and they get this tunnel vision, and the investigation becomes about confirming their bias as opposed to like an open-minded investigation about all possibilities. But you know, the crime scene was famously trampled over and not secured because initially they thought it was a kidnapping. You know, Patsy found a ransom note, a long ransom note at the bottom of the stairs, and called 911, and the police came over for several hours waiting for more communication from an alleged kidnapper. And when the appointed hour didn't come at 10 o'clock, I believe, you know, this one officer just suggested that John, you know, as much just to keep him busy, you know, do another search of the house, which in and of itself is insane to think that a police officer would tell, you know, a father to do a search instead of doing the search themselves. So that was yet another
Right.
mistake, lack of experience. But John went down to the basement, found the body, and that's the first level of all this suspicion directed towards the parents, is because John found the body. Still to this day, when I look at some of the comments that people are making, you know, for the most part, people have loved the doc, but the people who want to believe whatever they want to believe are still hanging on to the Ramseys did it theory. And they point to the fact that, well, gee, he found the body. Well, what does that mean? He found the body. That makes him guilty. To me, that's more exculpatory, because if he was trying to hide the murder with a ransom note, why would he go find the body? So it's illogical to say that because he found the body, that he's potentially the killer. But there was a lot of, you know, I don't completely fault the police for not securing that crime scene initially when they thought it was a kidnapping, because friends were coming over to comfort them. You know, in hindsight, it's easy to, you know, say that they should have completely secured the crime scene. But you know, Bob Whitson made the decision, who's in the show, that he was going to let people who were, you know, part of their support system. But beyond that, there was mistake after mistake and tunnel vision. And this one officer, Linda Arndt, you know, who's interviewed by Elizabeth Vargas a few years later on ABC. We show that clip in the show, and she just got suspicious immediately. You know, at around 10 o'clock was the appointed hour, when 10 in the morning, when the kidnapper was going to, you know, they were going to hear from the alleged kidnapper. And so John is going through his mail, and Linda Arndt notes in her report that, you know, he wasn't acting, you know, he was acting suspicious and casual because he was going through his mail. Well, John Ramsey will tell you he was going through his mail because he was looking for more communication from the kidnapper, not because he was being casual. And at one point, you know, she literally like looked into his eyes and feared for her life and counted the bullets on her shoulder holster. That is the level of just, you know, non-professional kind of hearsay that affected, um, you know, how they went about this investigation.
Well, I think the police in Boulder owe you a nice Christmas present. You were pretty nice to them. It seems like
Well,
wherever they could make a mistake, they did, and then they made it
it
10
is
times
true. It
worse
is
by sticking with their one theory and not being open to outside help and everything. I mean, they didn't come.
well, let me be super clear. Like the initial decision to allow friends into the house because they thought it was a kidnapping. I don't find that a horrible decision. It was the wrong decision, and the crime scene should have been secured. But everything they did after that, particularly when they start, I've never seen anything, and I've done a lot of wrongful conviction cases. I've spent 30 years making films about criminal cases in one form or other. I can't think of another case where there was a strategy to smoke out the parents because they felt like the parents were guilty, not based on a lot of evidence, and leaked misleading stories to the press. So, like, I'm not cutting Boulder Police much slack there.